Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and pay our respects to leaders past, present, and emerging. We are recording the session, as I just advised you. If you haven't been able to make it, or you'd like to share it with some of your connections, please contact us after the presentation. Otherwise, it will be coming out to you in an email. So I'll just give you a quick overview as to who Collective Safety is. We're Australia's first marketplace for safety and workers' compensation professionals. So if you're looking to undertake a project either in workers' comp or safety, feel free to reach out to us on our website at collectivesafety.com.au or on LinkedIn. Love to increase the number of followers that we've got at any stage. So what I'd like to do is now move on to the presentation. We're going to be keeping to time. It's going to be short, sharp, concise, and it won't be death by PowerPoint. If you'd like to leave any questions in the chat, please do so. You can do that directly to me privately, or you can ask the question to everybody. At the end of the presentation, we will also be having a short Q&A session. So without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to Lisa Rumato. Over to you, Lisa.
Thanks, Justin. Good morning, everyone. That was a pretty exciting way to start the day, I must say. I come to Safety Connect not from a background of safety, but actually from horticulture. I was CEO of a business in an industry that does have safety issues, and certainly as a CEO and director, I was aware of my responsibilities for staff safety and responsibilities as a director. And there were times when I didn't feel 100% sure that what was going on out in the production field on any given day was the intention that we had as an organisation. So when Alex and I started talking about this concept, I thought that's a great solution to this problem. So
sorry, Lisa, we're getting a little bit of feedback there.
From someone?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
See how you go.
Okay, thanks. So I just thought it was a great solution to a problem, that you could implement a system that helped managers manage that situation. And so I ended up in a world of kind of coding and developing our program with our developers in Melbourne and India to develop the platform. And it's been pretty exciting, not what I thought I'd end up doing, but it's actually a great way, hopefully, that businesses like yours can manage their safety better, and hopefully we can reduce injuries and things along the way. I think Justin may be gone, Alex, so maybe you'd like to introduce yourself.
My name's Alex. I started this with Lisa a little while ago now. I've come from manufacturing, and we were a manufacturer for 20 plus years, where we sold the business, worked over in the Middle East with NGOs and government organisations, and I had a very strong interest in technology and using technology how we can use technology in a safe environment. So that's what led us to create Safety Connect, and hopefully you'll get quite a bit of information today on what we do and how we do it, and the problems that we're trying to solve.
Thanks, everyone. Oh, there we go. Justin's back in charge.
So we'll just quickly, we've got a short video here of the system that we've shot at Peninsula Kingswood Golf Course. It'd be great if you could just imagine that this is the equipment related to your industry, because it can be used from anything from golf equipment all the way up to mining and infrastructure.
Safety Connect IT is a digital platform designed and developed in Australia to assist companies with their safety compliance by ensuring safety checks are done and operators' skills and qualification match the equipment they are using before they start the equipment. Our patented hardware can be fitted to all types of plant and equipment and will immobilise it until all safety checks are passed. It can also warn drivers and pedestrians of hazards through a built-in geofencing system.
We created Safety Connect IT because we thought there was always a better way to look at safety in a workplace. Safety Connect has a Bluetooth module that everyone's smart device can connect to that runs them through the safety checks, and while they're doing that, in the background we're checking for licenses and training. If the licenses, training or the checks don't meet a certain standard, the equipment won't start.
For me, the key features for Safety Connect IT are that we've built a simple platform based on a subscription model so that small organisations with one site and a few staff can use it cost effectively, but it can be scaled up to big industries, big organisations in mining or agriculture, and be applied to hundreds of pieces of equipment and hundreds of staff.
My name's Mervyn Ray and I'm head of Zurich Resilience Solutions, part of the Zurich Insurance Group. I've been in the insurance and risk management industry for 35 years. And part of my role is to identify suitable partners and solution providers for our customers. Traditional insurance risk transfer is one of the lowest forms of hierarchy of controls. One of the top hierarchy of controls is engineered solutions. And that's what Safety Connect IT brings to mobile plant and vehicles. It engineers out some of those previous policies and procedures that often required human intervention, conducting pre-start checklists, ensuring that important alarms and sirens and beacons are being used in key hazardous areas are all now automated and built into the Safety Connect IT system. That can only make workplaces more safer than ever before.
We've been working really closely with Safety Connect IT, and we've been working for some time now as a development partner. We've been really happy to be a development partner with this company, and we see that as a business we've got a responsibility within the golf industry, and not only the golf industry, other industries, to help facilitate new innovation, new developers to come up with a product as such. Based on what we're seeing now, we're very excited about what this platform could do for many businesses, and in particular golf. And we look forward to try to even extract more from this platform because we're excited about what it can do for industry.
Thanks. I think hopefully that gives you a good overview of how the platform works pretty roughly, but I guess today we just wanted to cover with you, I think what we see is probably the key benefits of implementing the platform in your business. The first one, I guess, is certainty of compliance. So with Safety Connect IT, you can make sure that what you want to have happen happens in regards to your safety. We think it's an efficient way to implement safety in your business, so no more filing and paperwork. Everything's done digitally and stored in the cloud. It gives assurance for managers and directors that their safety appetite is being run through the business. And I guess key for me is that we think it improves safety for people, not just your own employees, but visitors to your site, subcontractors, customers, and anyone who might come onto your site at any time.
That's a great overview, Lisa. Over to you, Alex. Can you take us through a little bit more detail?
Yeah, sure. So if we look at certainty of compliance, the way we're doing this is we set in the system your safety checks and your company policies, and then we have an engineered solution that we fit to the piece of equipment. This is our it's a bit difficult there with the background, but we have a box that we fit to a piece of equipment where everyone's smart device connects to via Bluetooth, and that allows us to lock out the starting sequence until all the safety checks are completed to a level that is set by management. All the license and competency checks are done in the background while they're going through the safety checks, and that's stored on operators' profiles on the system, and also the equipment we set the license to. And if any of that fails, we stop the piece of equipment from starting. We're also able to keep records instead of having to go to a filing cabinet or looking for your pre-checks or your license matrix. It's just a click of a button and it will present it in a report straight away. The system is completely customizable. Every site, every company and every industry is different. Like I was saying, digital operator-based checks, so you don't have to have a person that's dedicated to do their safety checks for all the equipment. Every operator can do the safety checks on their device. Quick site inductions via either a QR code at the front fence, which we're all very familiar with QR codes at the moment. But we can also trigger that induction for with a geofence. So if someone was to walk into a digital fence that we set on the platform, we can present that site induction direct to their phone. And then we have, apart from our license and qualification matrix, we also send out emails of license expiries coming up. Insurance, risk assessment and servicing all get emailed to company admins.
Thanks, Al. I guess the third point I'd like to cover with you is the kind of level of assurance for managers and directors and responsible parties in the business that the processes that you want happen are happening. And I guess we all know our responsibilities as leaders in business. We're responsible for a proactive approach to safety, looking for new solutions to kind of constantly improve the safety level in the business, implementing what's reasonably practical, and just, I guess, making sure your duty of care is fulfilled. But one of the important roles of directors and boards these days is to set the safety culture. And sometimes I know that's difficult because on the ground you can often get a kind of cluster of people who are managing the safety culture with the kind of she'll be right mentality. You know, compliance is a bit of a pain. But I guess from my own experience of having an 18-year-old son who's becoming an electrical apprentice, they use technology every day. They're familiar with it. They expect it to be in the workplace now. They're taught that safety is important. They learn about it at school, and kind of that generation of workers will come into our businesses. So as an organisation, we need to set the safety culture at that higher level so the kind of she'll be right mentality works its way out of the system and we take control of that, I guess. And there's varying levels of control that this system can have in your business. So you can have a really light touch, if you like. So you can just set it that you're recording your daily safety checks and you just want a record of it to prove that it's been done and to give yourself certainty that those things are happening. And you might not set any major or minor alerts that go with that. You might go to the next level, which has I guess what I'd call a more cognitive approach. So instead of saying, you know, are the tyres flat and does the battery have charge and those kind of standard safety questions, you can implement questions like, do you feel that you have the skills and abilities and are properly trained to undertake the tasks that you've been given today using this equipment? And I guess that takes it away from the kind of tick and flick mentality of safety checks and much more into the operator thinking, am I really confident? And in saying yes to this question, am I going to take responsibility for that myself? And Alex and I have had a situation where someone at that point has said no. So for us, it allows you the flexibility to create your own questions that suit your business or your circumstances and increase the level of control, if you like. You can also turn on minor alerts and major alerts that don't immobilise, just so that you've got an ongoing record of where things are going wrong. So you might just implement at that level so that you're getting warnings and notifications about things that aren't right that you can deal with, but it's not immobilising the equipment if you don't want to. And one of the ways that that's really useful is certainly in terms of you know, administrative controls like training. You can tell your driver, I don't want you to drive across the car park, even though that's the quickest way to get to your workplace today. But using our system with the geofencing, you'll get an alert when that vehicle's gone across the car park. So you know, and you've got some records that those kind of behaviours that you didn't want to have happen happened, and it helps kind of reinforce your own control over those situations. And I guess if you want to take it up to the next level, you can implement that engineered solution. So it's no longer up to just training and hoping that the staff are doing the right thing. If you want to really take control of it, then you'll mobilise unless all those points. So if the safety checks have passed, if the driver's got the right licence, the driver's got the right qualifications, the equipment's insured, then unless all those things happen, it won't start, which gives you kind of 100% compliance if you need it at that level. The other thing that's good, I think, in our system, it manages its own version control. So it can present safety policies or company policies as well as your safety checks. And the record of the user, when they saw that policy, when they agreed to that policy, and what version it was is always kept, so that you can go back and look at that over time if you need to. And I guess one of the other benefits is that you can set your own higher standard of operator usage, if you like. So you may need a license to drive a piece of equipment, so you can set that in your license controls. But if your internal systems show that when drivers have had advanced training or some other measure, they look after the equipment better, they drive it better, the chances of damage to the equipment are lower, you can also set that as a standard, which might be an internal system. And Safety Connect IT, the platform, allows for internal qualifications to be created like that. So then again, only people that have got licenses and meet that higher standard of care and driving for that equipment would then be able to start it. And finally, hopefully it makes the equipment difficult to steal, because no one will be able to start it unless they are an employee of the company with the right qualifications. So it's kind of locked onto the site there.
Interest.
What's that, Alex? Sorry. Finally, I guess most important for me is people safety. And so I guess with our system in place, no one can then say they didn't know that they weren't doing the right thing. So by setting geofences, which are no-go zones, we can set it to whatever information that you like, but in most instances, there's a buzzer on the dashboard, a light on the dashboard, and potentially a light on the roof. So if someone goes into a no-go zone, then they certainly are aware that they're in a place, and it would be very annoying to sit in a vehicle with all those things happening. So makes them very aware. The next one is caution zones. So here's an example of a caution zone that we've created. And it's important because we've marked out the car parks in the driveway and the retail area of that location. So the equipment used by the organisation does have to cross over some of those public zones at various times, but it's important that the public, the customers, can see the equipment, so the lights turn on and flash automatically on top of the equipment. And it just reminds the drivers too that they're in a public space, which is a cautionary space, and they might have to consider their speed and various things. And I guess lastly, with our geofencing system, you can create emergency geofence zones. So I don't know if you can do it for an earthquake like we had this morning, but if there was a flooding event or a fallen tree or something that happened out in the field that you couldn't get people to rope off as quickly as you like to, you could create a geofence. And any of your equipment that comes to that geofence, the operators will be notified straight away. They might not know what the issue is, but they'll certainly be alerted that there's an issue and not to go into that zone. So for me, all those things relate to people safety, and they're really important.
So this is a quick, little cartoon of how it works. Yeah, thanks, Justin.
When the operator links to the piece of plant via a QR code, it connects to the Bluetooth device that is fitted on the equipment that locks out the starting sequence until all the safety checks and competency checks are completed. If they don't meet the correct standards set on the platform, it won't start. This is done via a cellular or Wi-Fi connection using the Safety Connect IT app that is used to connect to our platform. Safety Connect IT is hosted, and all records are stored on AWS.
So it's really quite a simple technology that's used in lots of different situations. We've just applied it to safety in this instance.
Yeah. And the system can also talk to other systems where we can have API integration. That's a little bit bespoke. So depending on what other people's systems are, we work on how we can make that talk. And also the system is completely scalable. So all hosted on AWS, which we can grow, the system can grow as fast as the equipment grows on people's sites.
Thank you, Lisa and Alex. I don't have any questions here that have been submitted just at this moment, but what I can do is probably kick off a number of questions that I thought were probably on the tip of everyone's tongue. But given the technology is so simple and easy to integrate into the back end, who installs this type of equipment? And can you give us a bit of a rundown from an operational perspective?
Yeah, sure. So what we're doing is like a vehicle immobiliser, when you fit a mobiliser to your car, we're doing the exact same process. So we have a mobilised fit to the starting signal, which connects to our control box. Sorry, the background is causing some issues there. And that locks out the start of a piece of equipment until all the checks and balances are at the right level. We also have that all the lights that you want to have flash or buzzers happen, they all connect to this box also. And the people that we do get to fit it is we prefer a licensed auto electrician to fit it.
Great, excellent. We've just had a question come through. Thanks, Sally, for submitting this one. How would the system work on personal or portable equipment rather, ladders, chainsaws, things that aren't so mobile like a vehicle?
I think a chainsaw is a really good example because it might be something that you do need a ticket for. So it can certainly, when you QR code onto the chainsaw, it will check that you have the right license or qualification. If you don't have a ticket, it will just send a notification to the platform that someone's using it and don't have the right ticket, which you can then get, make sure they've got training for. But it can be used on any kind of equipment. And we've developed it so when you do the safety check for that piece of equipment, has it got enough fuel, whatever the questions are, you can also embed a video in it. So you can show, does it look like this? Or not sure how to use the ladder, watch this video and we'll show you how to erect it. So there's lots of ways that you can use the platform to implement safety on the ground with the person on the day. And one other thing I'd mention is that it can also be used for fixed kind of plant like gas lines that might need servicing. So you can set it up, a servicing schedule for things like that need certain things done at different points in time. So you don't have to keep it in a diary somewhere. A notification pops up to say this servicing, which may only happen once every 3 years or once every 6 months or something, is due to happen.
Excellent. Thank you for giving us that clarity. Ian asks, can the system be hot wired and bypassed? I think it comes back to your security points on your slide there, Lisa. So yes, no one can steal the equipment, but can it be bypassed, and what sort of security measures are put in place to affect that?
We actually had this exact same question from someone in the construction industry. If the operator is wanting to go as far as they can to rip it off, I guess that happens with anything on a piece of equipment. But we have a bypass or a fail safe where if the equipment needs to be moved, you can press a button. That's recorded that's been pressed and by who for it to be moved. Right. But we try and have it so that it can't be hot wired. It can't be bypassed. But if someone is really wanting to
ordering some meat.
I don't know how you stop that. Yeah.
This is no power, Eddie.
What did you just ask?
Sorry. If you don't have your microphone muted, we're just getting a little bit of noise in the background there. So just ask that everyone's mic's muted if you're not asking a question. Tried to mute everyone there. Thank you. There's some really good questions coming through. We'll get to the cost one towards the end. It's probably on most people's minds. Ian asks what about remote equipment operating near personnel?
Excuse me. We're currently working on a version, or not a version, an upgrade to it where it becomes offline. So if it's in a remote area where there's no cellular connection or Wi-Fi, the system still works. It works throughout the day, and then when the piece of equipment comes back into an area that has a Wi-Fi connection, all the data is uploaded onto the system, and management can still see it as if it is working as a system that's covered by cellular.
Great. We've got two other questions here. One's around height safety equipment, ladders and harnesses, etc. Can you modify or fix anything to the equipment, or how could the system work with this type of non-mechanized equipment? So ladders, harnesses, things like that.
I guess
I don't quite understand. So it can apply. So if you scan it, you can run safety checks for it, and it records who's using it. But in terms of it being able to do something or not being able to do something, it needs a relay connection. So it needs to be, if we implement like an immobilization, if you want to go to that level of immobilization, it needs a relay that it clicks on and off. So it needs a power supply, and it needs something that it's telling a piece of equipment what to do or not to do. So that may apply to some piece of equipment, but generally it's motorized equipment that we can lock out, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, I think that's the more important part. Sally's question's more around things that aren't mechanical. But maybe if the equipment for height safety equipment is stored somewhere and maybe needs to be accessed through a locking mechanism that is mechanized or automated, then that the system could be used to unlock equipment.
It doesn't matter where you are, as long as there's some cellular connection. You could run this from your headquarters in Melbourne and be managing equipment in Perth.
Great.
So yeah, you don't have to be on site.
We've got a very specific question here from Mark. Thanks for this, Mark. Can it be adapted to work on boats, tugs, pilot launches, work boats, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. You can set the system uses HERE maps, so you can set geofences anywhere in the world. Doesn't have to be a fixed address. It works with any engine of any type. It can be electric all the way through to diesel engines, so there's no problem at all.
Great. I hope that answers your question there, Mark. Or let me just scroll through here. We'll get to management reports in just a moment. QR code durability, wear and tear, and replacement cost. Are you able to satisfy the audience of the durability of the QR code, especially if there's maybe some rubbing against it, and just ensure that there's some longevity in the QR code?
Sure. We provide the QR codes. Well, we can provide the QR codes that we print on a plastic card printer, so the same as your credit card. But replacements of QR codes, it's as simple as going into the piece of equipment on the system, and you can download the QR code there as many times as you like.
Great.
And Justin, can I just add to that? The system's built so that operators can use any of their own mobile devices, but we can also provide a dedicated rugged device for the piece of equipment. So if it was something that you know the staff aren't allowed to use their mobile devices on site, we just connect a rugged mobile device to the piece of equipment, which is connected permanently as a default device, and that connects through Bluetooth, so you don't have to scan with a QR code anyway, because it's permanently connected, so you can choose which way you to go. And in terms of the the rugged devices and the equipment, we can increase the IP rating depending on the circumstance. So if it's inside a warehouse and it's never going to get wet or damaged, it can be fairly lightweight, but we could spec that up to a much more kind of industrial strength vibration control equipment if it's needed for certain circumstances.
Great, thanks for that clarification. We're going to move to the pointy end now and sort of ask around what's the business model around owning, renting, or supplying the equipment, and how much what are the costs involved, but also coming back to the reporting mechanism. I know there are a lot of automated alerts, but some of the questions that are coming through at the moment are generally around is management able to generate reports to monitor compliance or see problematic vehicles that may need repair or servicing. So it's probably that preventative piece before it ticks over to alerting the user that maintenance is required, or if there's a fault, what sort of fault detection is there? So firstly, cost, business model, renting, owning, that sort of thing, and then back to the management piece.
So we've tried to keep it as cost effective as possible by having the different levels of control that you want to implement. So if you want to do the light touch, which is just QR scanning, no immobilisation, I guess the minimum cost for a business could be as low as $99 a month. And then it will scale up from there if you want more than a handful of pieces of equipment, and then it's down to individual pieces of equipment. For immobilisation, there's implementation, purchasing of the hardware, and installation of that. And it really depends for us on the size and the scale of the business. So we charge per piece of equipment, not per operator or user, but it does depend a lot on how many operators there are. So you might have 5 pieces of equipment driven by 5 drivers, or 5 pieces of equipment that's used by 50 or 100 drivers. So it really does need to be personalised depending on whether you want a dedicated device or people are using their own. Probably too many factors to give a cost for an immobilisation system. But happy to talk to anyone about their specific circumstances and give them a guide.
Yeah, that's great. At the end of the presentation, we'll have Lisa and Alex's contact details, and you'll also be able to book an appointment through Calendly, subject to your availability, and go through some of those customized costing approaches. The other thing was on the back end of the reporting and management around the alerts to any faults or things that need to be done before a servicing event.
Yeah, so I guess what we're doing is in this safety checks, we're getting the operator to examine the piece of equipment. And if there is continual minor or major alerts on one particular piece of equipment, that's being reported on every safety check. So what we're doing in the background of the platform is we are capturing everything that's happening. So if we haven't got a report that's been written right now, we can quite easily write a report that will do that.
And just on that one, Justin, can I add, if you set a major alert for a particular issue, it can only be overridden by someone at management level. So if you want to set a mobilisation for, the brakes are not working properly, it actually takes a supervisor or a manager to step in to override that. So the operator is not left with the responsibility. Someone at a higher level has to check and make sure that that problem's been fixed before it gets ticked off to be used again.
Excellent. I think that covers most of the questions in the chat box. I think towards the end of the presentation, data security. There was a mention in the presentation around Amazon Web Servers. Can you give us a little bit more information as to who maintains the data, how safe is it, and what other information you can provide the audience?
Do you want to cover that, Alex?
You go, Lisa. You go.
In terms of the platform, there's 2-factor authentication for logons. So, and different levels of information depending on your role. So you can allocate a role as an admin, a supervisor or manager, and people can see different levels. So operators really can only see their own data, and it goes up from there. So the system's controlled at that level automatically. And in terms of all the information, your company can only see your company, and all the data is stored in Amazon Web Servers, which are incredibly more secure than you can manage manually, I guess, for a period of 5 years. And while you're paying for the platform, you can access that data anytime.
Excellent. And I think other than, I'm not sure if the hardware device came up with the background on your Zoom camera there, Alex, but other than the hardware, what happens in an emergency? Can you give us a little bit of an idea as to whether you shut down the entire plant and equipment, or if it can be identified individually? What happens in the case of an emergency, like an earthquake, for instance?
In case of an emergency that the equipment needs to be moved, say a fire or an earthquake that we've just had, there's an override button. So anyone can jump on and press that button, then it'll start and we can move it. When that button's pressed, it's recorded. So management knows that it's been pressed. So it wouldn't be pressed. If someone was to go on and press that every day, there's an alert being sent to management every day that someone's pressing that.
Just to be clear on that, Justin, we don't deactivate devices once they've started. So there's no cut-off system for security or safety reasons, really. If something's operated, we don't switch it off. So it's only a pre-start immobilisation.
Great, thanks for that clarification. I think that pretty much finishes the Q&A session. I'll hand back over to yourself, Lisa or Alex, and just finish off the last couple of slides. We're doing pretty well for time. We've probably got about 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, sure. So like we were saying in the video, the equipment that we have, or the hardware that we use, can be fitted to any piece of equipment, any voltage. So we can go right up to significant mining equipment. And this just gives a bit of an idea of industries that Safety Connect can be used in for from mining all the way waste management and construction.
Fantastic. Thanks everyone for attending. I've left up Alex and Lisa's contact details, also their website. Please feel free to follow them there, but also on LinkedIn. They're building their network, and Collective Safety is proud to be supporting one of our trusted partners in Safety Connect IT. If you have any other questions, feel free to email directly Lisa and Alex, but also book in a time to maybe just explore some of the other opportunities and ability to customize what your business needs. Otherwise, we thank everyone for attending today's webinar. The recording will be sent out. Please share that amongst a number of any of your colleagues, and we thank everyone for attending. Have a great day, and lovely to see everyone online.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa and Alex.